The traditional career path doesn't really exist anymore, and I want to talk about how it changes your relationship with money. I read a newsletter about money psychology and the broader economy, and I want to talk about what happens when career paths simply do not exist anymore. We used to have clear trajectories, right? Like you'll start at the bottom and in an entry level job, work your way up, potentially, retire with a pension or just like a large retirement fund. And I would say that has by and large become either eroded or completely disappeared in a lot of industries. We're seeing a lot of job industries become destabilized overnight. I think AI is eliminating a lot of entry level jobs. People that even enter into entry level jobs are often not trained properly and are kind of expected to immediately start performing at a certain level. Companies are doing these sort of mass layoffs. And we're also seeing, especially a lot of young people, go heavily into gig work and contract positions, which are very different than the traditional career path. And as someone that talks about money psychology, I'm very curious about how this shapes how you perceive money and value in your own life. And I would say the first thing is when you are not in a pre-described career path, I think it does change how you think about risk and, value in work. I think, there's this kind of feast or famine perception or this feeling that you have to kind of keep finding a new job or you have to have something always lined up. We're seeing a lot of young people, especially, have these multiple streams of income, which obviously does give you optionality and flexibility during economic downturns. But I think it also leads to a lot of people seeing entrepreneurship as salvation and relentlessly pursuing career in the name of money over potentially building something over a long period of time. And I think because there's a lot less job stability, there is more of a general distrust of large corporations and large institutions among young people. And I'm not saying that is necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that does lead to some unintended consequences about how young people interact with the economy. Also, when you're a gig worker or a contractor, you just genuinely have less stability at that job. You're less likely to be able to advocate for yourself. You don't have benefits. You might accept lower pay or worse conditions because that's the only option you have. And I think too, we're seeing how a lot of young people are externalizing their entire identities into their work because it's bled into so much of what they are doing, right? If you feel like your job could disappear at any moment, you might cling to it harder or let it define you or feel like you have to kind of keep building these revenue streams because the kind of old path is gone. And this is really the psychology of economic precarity, right? Like it doesn't just affect your bank account, it affects how you see yourself, what risks you take, and what kind of life you allow yourself to imagine.